Welcome to the 1457 podcast from Scotland Where Golf Began. We're a digital platform where inspiring golfers near and far with our photography, short films and stories, and of course, podcasts like this one. We want to inspire golfers from all around the world to visit our Scottish shores. I'm Stevie, a resident golf nut, your functioning golf addict. And my co-pilots this week are Malcolm Duck.
Good evening.
East Lothian legend.
Good evening, good evening.
I say it this week, every week. And Dave Kerr. Good evening.
Good evening all. Good evening.
Well, Open's not too far away, and that's why we've been talking about it. And it's a big one, the 150th. And in the lead up to that, we're doing a special series of podcasts focusing on Open courses in Scotland. So you're going to hear our experiences, possibly some guests from the courses we're talking about. And these podcasts will complement the Open for All series, which is a series of short films documenting the experience of playing all 7 Open venues in Scotland. Scotland Where Golf Began asked a group of friends and filmmakers on a trip of a lifetime, and you can watch these films every week on Scotland Where Golf Began's YouTube channels. Right, this week, it's a double header. We're talking about 2 golf courses. And no pressure, Malcolm, but they're in your backyard, so you need to be taking care of business here, although I think Dave's done an amazing bit of deep dive research around this stuff. Musselburgh Old Course and Muirfield.
But mind before we get there, 150th anniversary of the Open. But if I'm impressed to what and go back, press wait, go back and remember, is it the 149th? Is it 150th? The 1447 podcast asking those questions.
Exactly. So you can check that podcast out earlier in this series, which actually did come to my mind when I say that 150th now. There's always a question mark in my head after we spoke from Ken from Prestwick. Okay.
The first one then, just they invited, for everyone, they invited the best caddies, therefore it possibly could not be an Open. Aha.
Right, so, Musselburgh. Dave, you want to give us a sort of summation of the history of Musselburgh Old Links?
Sure, absolutely. Again, often, I think probably slightly disputed, but...
oh, come on, he's had it already, slightly disputed. He's going to go and say St Andrews, and he's slightly disputed. Yeah? Guinness Book of Records. Come on, he's at it, and he's even started. He hasn't even started.
Okay.
Guinness Book of Records, the longest continuously played golf course. Come on, Kerr.
There you go. I don't need to say it. He just said it for me. So, reputedly, Mary Queen of Scots actually hit some shots here back in 1567. So, and it was no stranger to royalty. King James VI played there as well in the early 17th century. Oliver Cromwell set up a base camp there while he was visiting East Lothian in the 1650, and the first documented evidence of golf on the links, though, is 1672.
Can I ask you a quick question before you carry on with
certainly.
that? For our listeners that might not know, especially from foreign climes, can you define what links is? What links is?
That's a good one.
That's a podcast.
That's a podcast series. No, I think this, I would describe it as golf played on the land that sits adjacent to the sea. It's that sandy soil, nice tight grass that sits on top of the sand, and plays slightly differently than grass grown anywhere else inland.
Kind of connects the arable land to the sea. So, you know, a classic like the 3 courses of St Andrews would be back and about links. A gullen might be wind-blown links, so the sand's blowing up onto the hill. My part of the woods, the Glen, on a cliff top near the sea. A few of the courses round about Fife coming down towards down the river, although on the coast they're mud based, so not links. So yeah, the kind of land that links the sand to the arable land.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt your flow there.
You're all right.
You can pick it up now. 1811, what happened then?
1811 is an interesting one, because that was actually Musselburgh Old course was the home to the first ever women's golf competition, which was played by local fisherwomen in 1811. And then I think Malcolm's got a bit on this next piece, which the next kind of significant milestone down at Musselburgh was 1829, which was the first recorded cutting of a hole. Malcolm, I know you've got a wee bit on this.
Yeah, so why is the size of the hole now 4.25 inches? Because prior to 1893, the holes in the golf course could vary in size, all depended on where you played. The holes at Musselburgh since 1829 had been cut with a converted drain pipe. So the diameter of the holes were cut 4 1/4 inches. And that standard was adapted by the Royal and Ancient Golf Club in 1893. So they began the business of standardising the rules of golf. Here we go, more PR, standardise the rules of golf, written by the Honourable Company. So when your putt blows out, you can blame Musselburgh. Just very quickly on the rules of golf there. The Honourable Company wrote the rules of golf, and it was a guy called Rattery who has signed it. Now, they didn't find those rules of golf for a long time. They found them in about the 1930s in a minutes book. And it's all kind of laid out there. But there was some kind of claim by the PR company in St Andrews that the RNA had written the rules of golf. But interestingly, in the copy and paste they did, I can't remember which rule it is, but Robin Dow gave me a tour around. And this is all Josh, these 3 great golf clubs, so it's all Josh, doesn't really matter. But actually, one of the rules that they had in theirs was a complete transcript from the Honourable Company, who down in Leith Links, because the holes mentioned in the rules actually were at Leith Links. So copy and pasting's been going on for a long time. But anyway, it was Scotlandie between the 3 clubs that got so much history in golf in these podcasts between Prestwick, the Honourable Company, and those newbies in St Andrews.
Fair enough.
I guess the bit that was probably more pertinent to this podcast really is the introduction of the Open Championships after being hosted by Prestwick for the first 15 years, 16, 20, 14, 13, 14 years. It then went on a bit of a rotation around Prestwick, St Andrews and then Musselburgh Old. So Musselburgh Old hosted the championship a total of 6 times between 1874 and 1889. Produced some wonderful champions, which I'm sure we'll spend a wee bit of time talking about as well. So, and since then, just been enjoyed by the locals and as many tourists as we can get down there as well. It's a fabulous place to play golf, a fabulous place to spend some time. Some amazing features on the golf course, which again I'm sure we'll get into.
Well, on that note, it was Muirfield that took over in 1892, wasn't it, from an Open Championship point of view?
Well, it was the Honourable Company, because the Honourable Company came from Leith Links, and then from Leith Links they moved to Old Course at Musselburgh, and then they moved to Muirfield. Same club, so same 3 clubs, just one club moved location 3 times.
So how did the Musselburgh Old Course feel about this?
Deliriously happy.
Pure raging, more like.
It was. Well, the people of East Lothian, as you know if you've ever met Malcolm, are notoriously even-tempered.
Very true.
And so this stuff just washes off them like a duck's back, I suppose. No, I think there was definitely some tension there, and I think some more kind of mean-spirited members or golfers down at Musselburgh had some less than kind things to say about the new course at Muirfield. I think one of the descriptions was, and now I'm looking to find it, one of the descriptions used, for instance, was to call an old water meadow because they felt it was green, springy turf, and it was very different than the hard link stuff that they were used to down at Musselburgh.
And of course, it is called Muirfield. And the Muirfield is the village Muir, was the village bog. So when Renaissance is getting a hard time from the Honourable Company, I just remind them of that. But it was a racetrack and run out for horses. And if you go into the new clubhouse at Muirfield, you'll see the maps of the bogs. But of course, that's all been blown in and sand filled. And you have a great links golf course just now for sure. Anyway, we're still on Musselburgh.
Well, we'll come to that very soon. Yeah, no, well, actually, we're moving on to Muirfield just to understand a little bit more about the history of Muirfield. And so basically, they decided that they would take the Open away from Musselburgh Old to this new venue, and that's where it went from now on. So from the membership of Musselburgh, who then played in Musselburgh then, if they're not the Honourable Company anymore?
Well, the Honourable Company was still there. They just moved. So if you go and look at the old buildings where the clubhouses were, you had the Musselburgh Golf Club, you had the Honourable Golf Club, and you had Royal Burgess were down there. Brunsfield, Burgess. Dave, Burgess? Brunsfield. Burgess were down there.
I think Burgess. Yeah.
But it's Burgess. It was because Bruntsfield were on Bruntsfield Links, and they moved from Bruntsfield Links in Edinburgh and then to there. So Royal Burgess there. So you had the three clubs playing there, and they continued. The other two continued to play there, and the Honourable Company moved down to Muirfield.
Well, an interesting thing with go back to the Open sort of situation is that it's my understanding that Muirfield was the first Open venue to have the championship over 72 holes, which was a very unique innovation at the time. And considering the current conversations we're having at the elite end of golf about 54 holes and no cut and shotgun start, it's interesting to know that a 72-hole stroke play tournament has been going on for nearly 140 years, 130 years, and obviously the greatest one.
Absolutely. And again, I think, it's an interesting... golf is seen, I suppose, as a bit of a staid sport where nothing really changes, but, it's relatively recent that you saw 72 holes played Thursday to Sunday with a cut on the Friday. That's not been something that's been around for a very long time. So I think golf has constantly evolved and changed. So without giving away my feelings about the Live Tour versus PGA Tour versus European Tour, I think golf continues to innovate and always will. And
Muirfield, or the Honourable Company, think of being stuffy. If you go around and look at their book about the matches, because they still did a lot of dinner matches at Muirfield, and there were no handicaps, so the captain would adjudicate on whether it was a fair match. If they didn't think that the foursomes partners were fair, then that wouldn't happen. And you talk about innovation. If you look at one of the books there, I can't remember the name, but he shall play with his left hand against whomever who shall play with his right hand. So they had games of golf with one hand and bets and different things. To talk about innovation and mixing it all up, nae new, sunshine, nae new, and done at by the Honourable Company, absolutely. And just very quickly on there in the history, when you go in, the oldest trophy there is at Muirfield, and the captain now is a silver stick that golf clubs presented by Edinburgh Council. But way back to Rattery, a lot of the members of the Honourable Company were archers, which is the Queen's bodyguard. So Edinburgh Council had presented the archers with a silver arrow. So they asked if they could maybe have a silver golf club to play for. And the captain of the club was the winner of the club championship. So Rattery won it. So he held both the arrow and the club. Only problem was he was a Jacobite. So after Bonnie Prince Charlie didn't get independence the first time round, whatever he did or didn't he do, they all got rounded up and he was taken down to Tower of London. But his buddies managed to get intercede and get him brought back to play in the next foursomes match. So everything was okay.
Well, so if he wasn't any good at golf, do you think he'd had it?
Well, exactly. Well, I'm obviously good at bows and arrows and at golf.
And then, right, so let's talk about playing it. Musselburgh Old Ave's not a course I've played. I have played Muirfield once, which was an amazing experience. But from what should you expect playing that if you're relating that to sort of more contemporary links courses? If you were to turn up at Musselburgh Old,
I'd say Musselburgh is one of those courses that is genuinely difficult to compare to another course. The majority of the golf course sits within the racetrack. The racetrack is the horse racing track. The horse race track itself is in play. There's a local ruling that if you find yourself in a hoofprint, you get relief. But no, is that right? Or do you play it as a lies, Malcolm?
No, you get relief. You get relief.
You get a relief from a hoofprint. Well, that's good, isn't it? That's very fair of them. You do get a relief from a hoofprint. I think by modern standards, it's a short course. I mean, no doubt about that. But it starts with a 240-yard par 3 where you play from outside the racetrack, over the rails of the racetrack to the far corner of the racetrack. And it's a testing way to start around the golf, certainly, that's for sure. And there's another, I think it's a fourth hole that plays you into the far corner, where again you play over the line of the racetrack again, but the rest of the holes all sit within the racetrack itself. So the first and the fourth cuts through the actual course.
And it's 9 holes, yeah?
Inside. Yeah, 9 holes, yeah.
So the land on the golf course inside is firmer and more linksy, but then of course you go onto the racetrack and it's a bit like playing on a rugby field or a football, a rugby field with longer grass. it's a mix, but I think it's great fun with modern clubs, and it's great fun with hickories, and they have hickories there, so you can rent hickories fairly cheaply. Especially compared to where golf's going in price now, you can do that. And great fun, as I say, you can play 18 by doing 2 nines, or if you morning round or you've got some spare time, you can nip down and do that. And they're very obliging, very accommodating. They've got the Wee Museum, they've got the history there. Great fun.
Yeah, I think it's. I think maybe what would it be? The 4, 5, 6, maybe the 7th hole. I think was the first ever multi-tier green. Ever made as well. So it's, if you're an architecture buff as well, then there's certainly some boxes to be ticked there.
And this year's the 350th anniversary.
Have you played it with hickories, Malcolm?
I have indeed. Yeah, great fun.
I remember as a kid finding some mashy niblick and having a hit with it, so I can't really remember what that feels like. But what would you say would be the most unusual difference, or the biggest difference between now, like how you hit a ball in modern ball, and what it feels like to hit with a hickory, like a full shot?
And the hickory is a lot sharper, so it's going to cut into the ground a lot harder. You don't have that kind of bounce, or a little bit of bounce for a modern club. The shaft is a lot whippier, so if you're a good player, you can move the ball around a lot more. The first World Hickory at Craigie Law, or the second World Hickory at Crow, because the first World Hickory was actually at Musselburgh. I think a shotgun start was about 4 or 5 hours. I think everyone's round to 3.5, because by and large you had 3 clubs, a wood and a putter. So the club choice was quicker. So you had to be able to do kind of roughly a 3 iron, a 7 iron, and a wedge. But of course, some of those lofted clubs are no bounce, so getting out the bunkers is you very definitely are just trying to get out and maybe go out backwards, where nowadays you might go forward. So all this forgiveness that's brought onto the clubs is not there. But again, go back to Leith Links, a lot of the clubs are 400 yards. So these boys are good players, hit the ball a long way.
And so when you play with the hickory clubs now, you play with a modern ball though?
Yes, but they're kind of soft ball, but there are modern hickory balls too. The old the little gutty purchase. So you can get those a little bit smaller. So if you're very, very old, not quite like me, and you go back to the old size British ball, they're a little bit smaller than that, and they don't go as far.
I would say the whippy thing catches me out. I've played with hickories a few times, and for anyone who has played golf for me, I swing very fast. Far too fast.
I'm not sure you swing that slow, Dave.
No, indeed. And so, but the hickory demands a nice, slow, languid swing, or you will lose control of the club face and you've got no idea where the ball's going. So, it's definitely
quite good for your golf.
It would be good for your golf, yeah. But it's the opposite.
And you got to commit. You got to commit and hit down into it. You really got to take that turf with you.
Absolutely, but it's the exact opposite of everything. You go onto YouTube and Instagram these days, everyone's got these speed sticks and they're trying to swing as fast and as hard as they possibly can. The Bryson DeChambeau approach. It'd be delightful to watch Mr. DeChambeau trying to play Musselburgh Old Links with hickory clubs.
He wouldn't get paid enough. It's all business.
I was going to say that as well. Right, so obviously Muirfield is a lot of people would regard it as one of the finest links experiences in the world to play as a golf course. I played it once. One of the things that struck me about it, I played it in January, and it was it was cold, but it was blue skies, bit of wind, and the course was in amazing condition, and I couldn't believe they were cutting the greens in January. I was just like, that's unbelievable. They were just taking a wee shave off the greens.
They say about Muirfield, if there's ever a problem with an open and you have to move it quickly, you can take it to Muirfield. Roger Davis up there, I've talked to Roger a few times, and he couldn't believe that the fairways were the same width as the open. So it is always in pristine condition. The R&A own a couple of fields to the right, so they don't have to go through negotiations of doing all that kind of stuff. On the women front, Derby Cross, the women front, they've actually done that absolutely properly. I think they had 25 spaces for ladies to come in, and they came in and they accelerated them through the system. So now it's completely open. So if you remember, you can nominate whoever you like. male or female. I don't think all 25 spaces were filled because they didn't get 20 people who were nominated wanted to play. But it's now a completely and utterly open course, so it has done what it said it would do, and big tick on the thing for saying that. They also play, when you go and play there as a member or visitors, they play 6 front to 2 tees, 6 front, 6 middle and 6 back. So you get to play off some further back tees, some middle tees and some front tees, which makes it attainable. And for me, I think it's fairness and simplicity is what really gets me. I mean, the 18th, I think, is one of my favourite holes of golf, and it's simple. And honourable company members, I'm not being rude where I say it's a field with a couple of bunkers in the right place and a receiving green, and the other bunkers just in front of it just to catch you. It is magnificent in its simplicity. And of course, it is that sandy links soil now. Tremendous golf course.
And the way it's laid out as well, which I remember, is no hole faces the same direction, so the wind's basically different in every hole.
Yeah, I think well, pretty much all links golf courses that were open at the time that Muirfield was designed were pretty much 9 out and 9 back, if they were 18-hole golf courses, of course, back in 1891. But Muirfield, old Tom designed that with 2 loops of 9 that one sits inside the other, so you're constantly changing direction basically. So assuming the wind stays in the same direction during your whatever 3.5, 4 hours out there, you'll constantly be having to think about which way the wind's coming at you. The usual wind sees you though. Is it what would be 1, 2? Is it 4, Malcolm? The par 5 down the back, which that's generally played into the wind. That's a fair old length, a fair old hit to get up there.
Fifth.
But fifth, yeah. But just again, I think by modern standards, it's not the most glamorous looking golf course. It's not one that's going to get the Instagram pictures excited, but I think it's Malcolm said it, the simplicity, the architectural design, the look and feel of the place for me is hard to beat. And there's some absolutely just amazing holes. I mean, Malcolm, you've obviously mentioned 18 there. Personally, I find it hard to look past the par 3 13th. I love a good short par 3, but it's the angle of the green, the depth of the bunkers. For me, that's almost the perfect par 3.
I think as a collection of par 3s, it's probably one of the best collection of par 3s in any golf course. And yeah, it's interesting you talk about the kind of 4-hour round. I mean, the Muirfield's a golf club, or it was a gentleman's club when they played golf, but you don't talk business, you don't do anything else, and it's foursomes. It's a 2-ball club. Now, whether you think that's good or bad or wrong is up to you. So, if you don't like a club, don't join it. But it's all about communication. It's all about no business, no work, no politics, no whatever else. So the Muirfield day for a member is 2.5 hours for lunch. Not first thing, maybe are thinking that first. Great lunch. 2.5 hours for golf, 2.5 hours for lunch, and 2.5 hours for golf. So if you drive the first in the morning, you'll drive the second in the afternoon. And they have a couple of local rules. They have Colonel Dahlmeyer, and the Dahlmeyer rule is goes back to that thing about no handicaps. A lot of the games are played with no handicaps, but if one pair goes 3 up, the other pair get a stroke. So it keeps that competition, but it keeps the game alive. And the other thing is they have the East Lothian rule. So if you lose your ball in the rough, you don't spend very long looking for it. You drop one on the side, and it's all match play. So you can't win the hole, but you add a shot and you can half the hole. So all these things are there for speed of play and all. So people think it's a stuffy old-fashioned club, but a lot of the things they do, one-handed golf, one guy in the other hand, pace of play, all these kind of things, camaraderie. How they've dealt with women. These are all things that are modern and bringing things through. So they'll get that message out in due course. And of course, we've got the Open in 150 at St Andrews, but they have the Women's Open coming up, and they've hosted every single championship there is, including the Ryder Cup. I don't think any other course has done that. It is a special place.
And Open wise, I've been to 2 there, 2002 and 2013. Dave, what about you?
Same, actually. Same 2, Stevie. Yep, same 2. Mr. Ells in 2002, you know, that playoff was something to watch, certainly. 4-man playoff with Levy and
Appleby.
With Levy,
Elkington.
Appleby and Elkington. And I remember my father-in-law at the time, he was, well, not at the time, he's still my father-in-law, but at the time he was a member at Dunbar. He's still my father-in-law. And I remember going down to watch the final qualifying at Dunbar, and Elkington came through that final qualifying, got one of the last spots, after he had gone a little bit wild on the 18th tee, and put it into some thick rough, and then knifed one out of the rough, out of bounds, dropped one down, played again, finished with a double bogey, thought he was out of it, qualified for the Open, and then he made it into the playoff. What a story it would have been if he'd won it. But Els was a very worthy winner that year. I've got the pin flag up on my wall here, actually, from that Open. It was the first one I attended, first full stop, and I just loved it. I loved it. It's a great week as well.
I remember 2013. It was kind of mixed conditions, wasn't it? The course was quite burnt, wasn't it?
Yeah,
very burnt.
Which was quite
very dry.
Which is a very sort of old school, sort of linksy vibe. But it was Mickelson shot 66 in the final round to win it. That was brilliant. Malcolm, what were your experiences of it?
I was there 87, 92. And 16, so I was following Mr. Davis when he came round second to Mr. Faldo, and of course Tom Watson. I was there for the seniors because Tom again has won the Open there and the seniors there. Interesting how many people have actually done that kind of thing. So Tom's done that a few times, and I think the last Open when I was there, I was standing on the ninth and I hadn't a clue where I was. I mean, I live in East Lothian. I'm lucky enough to have played Muirfield, you know, a number of times, and it was. I just couldn't believe. I'm a Roman officer. I'm supposed to understand maps and direction. I'm standing on a golf course. I have no idea where I was. But just on that night, Robin Dow, who was captain that year, very kindly took me at a wee tour of the history. Because if you go there now, you'll get a wee tour of the history and all the rest of it on your visitors' day, and. He's pushing on towards 80, but boy oh boy can he hit a ball, and is he passionate about what they've done. They've, with another guy, curated all the history and brought it all together, so it's a really great experience when you go up and have a look round. They're training the staff to do all that. But one of the great stories he said, I think if you listen to the commentary on the Women's Open, they're doing a whole lot of stuff where they're bringing out little stories of every hole that's happened. So I didn't manage to get hold of that for here because they're keeping up their sleeves quite rightly for the Women's Open. But I don't know who it was going down the ninth, and there's that wall on the left-hand side, so he was blocked, but he just pulled the left-handed club out and hit the ball. So of course in those days you weren't necessarily restricted on the number of clubs, and for that hoof print back on Musselburgh, Dave, you would have had a particular kind of club that was designed to get it out of the rut or whatever else. So again, if you're up in this kind of area, you go to Jack White's shop in Gullen. He's got a lot of these old hickory clubs. Great way to spend an hour. But please buy something from him because he doesn't get a wee bit fed up. People come and use it as a museum. It's not quite that way. And he rents hickories out too.
There's been a good sort of, if you look at the champion list for Muirfield, it's a pretty high calibre player, isn't it? Braid, Hagen, Player, Nicklaus, Trevino, Watson, Faldo, and Mickelson.
It does seem to separate.
It's probably sort of a demonstration of the quality of golf course, isn't it? And Ernie Els, obviously, as well. And
I think it's one of the golf courses the players rate highest. And I shoot me down on comments later, but I don't think there's been a double-digit under par win at Muirfield.
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't think anyone's got more than 10 under. I think the last one he was about 3. Mickelson. It wasn't a lot, and I think he may have been the only one of 2 players to break par. So it's a tough test of golf. Sam Torrance, after one of the Scottish Opens at Renaissance, when it was it was a big under par score, it'd been a lot of rain, and and no wind. And he said they would have destroyed any Cove. And interestingly, he said especially Muirfield, and that's going to. And I'm pretty sure the Open will go back there soon. I mean, it has to. It has to because they've dealt with women correctly. It has to because go into who owns the claret jug and who owns the rights to the Open. Maybe in a second, poke a bit of fun again. But it's done all those things. It's one of the three foremost clubs, and one of the reasons they've made the changes is to keep that going. And I've totally lost the thread of what I was saying, which was. I went down a rabbit hole there.
It will. I think you're right, Malcolm. I think it will host the Open again soon. It will host the Open.
No, but going back to what Sam said was he said these players now are so good. The Muirfield greens of some of the Open courses they're not flat. You try putting on those greens and you tell me they're flat. They're not. The subtle undulations of the greens is superb. But if you're coming in from height and they water the greens and cave into the modern player, then maybe with the length they hit it and the height they hit it, they'll be able to stop the ball more easily than they did before. But you go back to Katrina Matthews when she was on the podcast talking about the old course and how will that survive. A links course needs wind. Any links course will struggle against these guys if we don't have wind.
It's very unusual though for links golf not to have wind, as our experience tells us. It is very unusual to get a flat, calm day in Scotland's Gulf Coast. Do we not agree, Malcolm?
It is, but ask Renaissance. Jerry's tearing his hair out with rain and no wind. So it does happen. Plenty of sunshine, just don't need the rain and the wind. Unlike the wet coast where you guys are. Or the PR coast where Dave is. I'm just underlining, I'm a member of the St Andrews Club and very proud of it. And, all this Mickey taking is
well, Malcolm, you
is
say
mostly
that
Josh.
You should record a little sub voiceover at the start, Steve, that just says, for information, Malcolm Duck is a member of the St Andrews Golf Club and has the greatest of respect for the whole kingdom of Fife.
None of the people depicted in this podcast Well, I think that's a good time to round that up after covering the two phenomenal courses in East Lothian, and we'll be back again very soon to talk another Open Golf course with you. Remember, you can get in touch with us on social. We are at Where Golf Began. Our email is info@scotlandwheregolfbegan.com, and our website is www.scotlandwheregolfbegan.com. Cheers.